Hi. Before retiring for the night into our respective rooms, we made a decision with the help of the reception desk in the Strand Hotel about the places which we could go and have a look at in and around the location of the hotel. And they told us you can go to Buckingham Palace and you could see there what is called the ceremonial guard change. It is ceremonial guard change in the sense that the security guards in a certain type of robe, that is a red suit and a black trouser and a black fur cap, etc. They will do some kind of marching around with a band, and they will one team of four people will go retire and another four will join. That is a big attraction, or one of the biggest attractions in London and in the Buckingham Palace area those days. Well, we decided, yes, how we figured out how to reach there. That was told to us in a very plain terms. And the second thing that is very near to the hotel was, and to the palace was, the so-called Hyde Park. Hyde Park is actually a place, a park, where, the legendary Bernard Shaw used to practice public address by paying a penny or so to a policeman who will stand in as an audience. So that was an exciting proposition. So we decided we are going to go the next morning, that is a Monday morning, and have a look at these two places. We didn't have any camera of any sort, so there are no pictures whatsoever. Then what we did, in the early morning, we were quite early to rise, and we finished our breakfast and we got out of the hotel at 8 o'clock, and then kind of rushed through all our guide and the street names, following the street names that took us over to the palace. When we went to the front gate of the palace, of course, it's a magnificent building, unique thing. Everything else wise, it is unique structure, architectural monument, a large complex, and with a huge front yard or backyard or whatever you say. But there were at least 100 people waiting to see the guard change at the early morning hours, like 8:30 or 8:45. Interesting. And most of them were Britons, and who have been there with their kids from the northern part of England or Scotland, were gravitated down to the palace area to see this, or to London to see many things in London. Well, we just saw this guard change, that ceremonial change actually. And then we decided we will go to the Hyde Park. And the Hyde Park, the interesting thing is it's a huge area, so we did not see the entire Hyde Park. There are some rivulets or streams, smaller streams, very well manicured lawn, etc. But one of the things that we attracted us was the location where Bernard Shaw stood up and spoke to his audience of a policeman after paying a penny. So there is a symbolic policeman there, and he comes for duty there to to receive the guests, and he'll explain. And if you paid this so-called penny, he will stand in there for your audience for about, say, for example, 5 minutes. Well, so we finished that. So these are the two items we had in our mind. So then we rushed back to the hotel, packed up everything, because our taxi was supposed to be in front of the hotel at 12 o'clock, so that we will catch our flight by about 2:30 in the afternoon. It is a TWA flight originating from London, with the first stop in Detroit, second stop in Kansas City, and third stop are terminating at Albuquerque, New Mexico. It was a Monday, and theoretically, we will, if you started from London on a Monday, you will reach what is called your destination in the US on Monday itself, even though it is a very long haul. So we got ready, we checked out. I know that was a simple process. We did not have to even put our signature. No monies were paid because we were guest Air India. Yes, okay. We waited there. 12 o'clock precisely. The desk clerk came and told us, "Sir, your car is ready." So all of us, three of us, took our baggage and said goodbye to the old front desk staff and boarded the car. Then starts the music. Because that was the worst car travel ever anyone could imagine to have taken. In other words, our plane is at 2:30 departure. We had to report at least 1 hour before. International flight is like that in those countries those days. Then this young man on a white t-shirt with a badge of a driver stuck to his t-shirt and blue denim jeans was circling around, at least 3 times he came in front of our hotel. In other words, immediately I gathered that he did not know how to get out of the London town to the motorway, taking us over to the airport. And the driver wasted at least 40 minutes minimum in circling around. Then I for some reason, I caught hold of his t-shirt and told him, "A man, take this tunnel." Because for some reason I had an idea in my mind about a tunnel through which we came out and tunnel opened up in the Strand place. And the driver very politely went through the tunnel. Within a minute or two, we hit the motorway and in the direction of the Heathrow Airport. Well, that is not the first. That is only the first part of our tribulation. Second part is much more exciting. The car raced in the sense, 55 miles per hour, etc., whatever. And all of a sudden, this car came to a grinding halt. And he pulled the car over to the curb and then told us, "Sir, a car has some problem." You know what the problem was? Car has no gasoline. Because this guy had wasted gasoline in city traffic for up to 40 minutes within the city only, inside the city. So he exhausted most of the gas. So we were in deeper trouble. The place where the car came to a halt, from there you could see the tail section of all the aeroplanes in the Heathrow Airport. That is disheartening because we are so close yet far away. And you know what the time was? Like it is close to 1 o'clock. And we just have only another hour before the plane takes off. Then, in the Indian style, we jumped out of the car, pulled our luggage and looked in the direction of the incoming traffic and waved to many of the cars that are, going fast past us, honking occasionally. We did not know why they were honking. They were honking to drive away us from the traffic. And by a quarter hour, in other words, 10 or 15 minutes, one car was headed toward us. This was a taxi, a cabbie. And the car came to a halt in front of us and asked us, "Sir, please get in." All of us got into the car. And this young man, our driver, he then pleaded to us that this is the first time ever he was coming to London with a car. He was only a high school student and he comes there to drive a car to fetch or in other words, that is his summer job, to make some extra pounds. He has no idea of the geography of London. He comes from a place somewhere in the north. And in those days, there is no Google map. Anyway, fine. So we got into the car, raced past And then in between, the driver told us that this is something that is natural here in this part of the highway. What happens is some people will get into trouble because of the car problem, some mechanical problem, a breakdown, or even running out of gas. It's okay. We were consoled that way. And then, he just reached to the airport and allowed us to get out the car and told us, thank you, sir. You don't need to pay any fare. Then we rushed to the immigration. And in the immigration was still worse. Because, we were the only three colored people other than the sweepers in the terminal building. And we took our documents, passport, visa, etc. out. And by that time, the immigration officials saw some white people behind us. And then what happened? He told us, you wait, I will get those guys cleared first. Then of course we cannot accuse him, even though we disliked it most, because color mattered most in those days, probably now also, in spite of the fact that it is London. Londoners are not averse to colored people, at least looking at colored people. Anyway, so our turn came, we kissed this man, that's all we could do, we cleared us. Then we had to check in our luggage, and then there was a problem. There was only one girl in the desk of TWA. As soon as we reached her desk, he looked at the tickets and then took her what is called a walkie-talkie and spoke something to the other end. And the other end was actually the cabin crew, the chief of cabin crew in the flight, in the aircraft. And what probably she told that person was that, you get the three waitlisted passengers out of the aircraft, because the so-called no-show, three of us, we are available, we came. So then she said, the luggage was put in, and of course it is their problem. And then what happened? She guided us, escorted us through that what is called the sky bridge into the aircraft. While we were going in, we saw three guys, decently dressed with suit, etc., etc., and all are white fellows, headed to some place in America. They were guided out of the plane, and we were put in their seats. But this is something all airlines headed to, in Europe do. No doubt about it. They do not want to fly with the empty seats, at least those days. Now, I don't know what happens now. Anyway, once we got into, just about. In other words, only plus point was that the door was closed. Door of the aircraft was closed when this lady called the chief of cabin crew. But the plane was still in the tarmac because the captain did not announce, the departure, etc., those routine things. So we managed to be in the plane. After all, we had only $8 worth of foreign currency, and we were holding that $8 very close to our chest. We did not even spend a single dollar because we were afraid. We don't know how to manage without money. And that was one of our most important pains. If the plane went along without us on that day, of course, later on I was told that, we were told that the Air India will again take care of us, put in the hotel and book us in the next flight. Okay, fine. Anyway, so by 2 o'clock, or rather 2:30, the flight TWA took off and headed toward our destination. But then what happened? I had a splitting headache because of this kind of tribulation and trial we had to go through. And then I called one of these girls in the cabin crew and told her that I have a splitting headache. Well, do you have any kind of pill for that? Then she gave me 2 pills and a glass of water to drink, and I just slept. And then naturally, once you take off, once the plane is airborne, the next thing that happens inside the cabin is serving of food. I was not called because I was in deep sleep, enjoying or relaxing for a while. Then when I opened my eyes around quarter after 3 or so, I saw everybody, sitting in a comfortable style after the food and getting ready to sleep. Because, anyway, and another interesting thing is, when the 3 passengers were guided out of the plane, most of the passengers were looking toward the back end door, tail end door of the aircraft to see who the 3 people were going to join. So we were heroes for at least 1 minute. That was another exciting part of it. Well, of course, I waved at this girl. I rang the bell. Girl came in, and I said, if you have some leftover food, I would like to. There is always food, because if there are 120 seats, there will be 120 or 150 food packets arranged. So I get a chance to enjoy the so-called American dinner or American lunch, whatever you call it. Anyway, afterwards it was a dozing off. And then, the first stop was in Detroit. After maybe, the plane took off, then it flew over Ireland. All the passenger planes always follow a route which is very close to the continental shore. In other words, if there is any trouble, they can and need an emergency landing, they will not be far away from the continents. The land area, so to speak, and what is called the airport. So the captain announced, we have crossed the Montreal. In another hour or so, we will be in Detroit. We will touch down in Detroit. Finally, Detroit was touched down. And so many people went out of the plane, and so many new passengers got in. And then said, our next stop will be in Kansas City. So Kansas City is a very large airport, an international airport. They call all the airports international. That is the beauty of the American system. And the airports are owned by actually a city government. So then, in about 8 o'clock in the evening, we landed 8 or 9, I hope, because it's dark. And the city lights were very brilliant. And we landed in Kansas City. We went through the immigration, and the immigration official, stapled some yellow card with our names, etc., on inside of the passport, and that was the entry permit actually. So interesting thing is, or very interestingly, when we produced our passport, he looked over the pages of a telephone directory like a book, where our names were printed already about who we are, what is our purpose, all those details. And that is, after consultation with that book, he just filled out a little stub, a card, and stapled it. Then, next, what is the next mission? Going out of the airport, which is night. And of course, the Kansas Orientation Center, University of Kansas Orientation Center, sent 2 students to receive us. And they came in a Greyhound bus. And it was about a 1.5 or 2 hours of ride from Kansas City Airport to our Lawrence, Kansas. So we went to the campus maybe by about 12:30 or thereabout. And we were then, we checked into what is called Ellsworth Hall, which later on we figured out that stands on what is called Mount Oriel. Well, that was the travel we had gone through to reach our destination, that is Lawrence, Kansas, in the university campus.